Okay. Let's see. Do some of that. And then let's do some of that. Howdy, folks. Hope you're doing well today. Working on some pins for a local store, which is pretty cool. I was doing a little networking and stuff like that. So if you are a pin maker and you want your stuff somewhere, go find the place that you want it to be, and then build rapport with the people that you want that with. Um, so yet another reason why I think your network is one of your biggest things. So yeah, that's my pre-ramble. Let's see. Yeah, I guess not really much else to talk about. We're just gonna get right to it because it's getting close to me having to get my kiddos. So, and I'll just pause in between there. So I'll do that and then we'll switch, or I'll come back. Sean, what's up, dude? Good to see you, man. Hope you're doing well today. I didn't stream all week. Felt weird. But I was working on the YouTube vids and stuff, so. I also made a Facebook group. There is an application, not an application, there's it's private, so you'll just have to find the group, and then you can get approved by admin, sort of thing. Um, I've been thinking a lot about where can I have fellow creators that want to share their knowledge as well as elevate um, certain things in order to um, I don't know, have it so we can all be like working together. I don't know, just a community sort of thing. So I still have some stuff to iron out, and it's obviously at its infancy stage. But I did end up making a Facebook group. I'm probably gonna I'm definitely going to be spending more time on the Facebook group than I was with the Discord for now. However, um, I do. I think Discord still has its place, so I'm not going to like get rid of it or anything. But yeah, so there's that. Let's see. So this is what we are working at. What's up, Vinny? How you doing? All right. So let's take a look at the overview cam right quick. And these are the blanks that I'm going to be working on. There we go. These are the blanks that I'm going to be working on. That is their destination. So making a set of pins for a local biz, which is pretty stinking cool, man. Um, and it was pretty easy too. Actually be able to do that. Well, this isn't really going to work out, is it? I only factored here and not over here. Hmm. Hmm. All right, hold on. Here we go. Whoop. Sorry. That's not as bad, right? One of these days, I will have a solid way of doing this every time. But until then, we're going to have to keep revising it, refining it, and all that jazz. Okay, just a quick little orientation here. We got the sections all at the top, and we've got the uh, barrels all at the bottom. So it just makes it so Abby can choose the orientation of the particular blanks because she does have more of a preference about some of those things than I do. And then the other thing is, let's see, the profile that I'm going to go with. So it's, you know, just a way for us to communicate with, you know, not really having to talk necessarily. And it's a way to just kind of remember or I guess a jogger, of what's going on. Anyway, so I did have a couple that are well on their way, but I have to make sections for those. But until then, I'm going to get over here and get to it. Oh, yeah, I don't know if I put the link tree in the description, but the link tree hopefully has the link that'll take you to the Facebook group that then an admin can go in and then approve it. So it's a completely different area for me when it comes to setting that type of stuff up. So you're gonna have to bear with me while I learn the functions of said thing. But yeah, trying to create some value in there, trying to streamline some other things for to make it easier for people to get familiar with custom pin making and you know, other little turning tricks and tips that we've learned throughout. All right, so all I'm going to do, this is going to be pretty simple actually. So all I need to do right now is get these set up to where I can just go ahead and drill a center hole into them. And then from there, I'm going to just flip it around and hold it from the section side, and then we're just going to trim it all the way down, flip it around, and then that's where the section is going to end up being, so I'll work on the section at that point. So this is I guess a different approach to doing this, and yeah. And I guess it really only works if you have a metal lathe, but does it? Yeah, because the whole point is to run the carriage and make it streamlined. Yeah, but center drill, you could potentially use a like a carbide square and okay, I'm actually just going to leave this set. That way I don't have to move it anymore. So production-wise, this will be more efficient. There we go. So let's see, we've got, this one is called Lucky Birthday. It kind of has a little bit of a southwestern turquoise and copper kind of vibe to it. But we did already do one that was like that as well. And then the other one, and this one as well, are pastel prisms. So there you go. That's all I'm doing. I'm just getting a center because I'm gonna put it back into the lathe like this, and then I'll have a live center on the other side, and that'll support it. I'll run the carriage across, and then we'll have enough to grab a hold of the section and then be able to turn it into the different components that I need it to be. So Sean, how many of those pins did you get done? The seam, not the seam rippers, the what was it? Hold on, it'll come to me. The crochet hooks. Here we go. Also, that video that I did for the slimline, I finally did a voiceover one, or I did a voiceover one for it this morning. But yeah. And then the other one that I did out of the wood that I got from the hike. I did kind of talk over that one, but it smelled pretty good in the workshop for a little while after that. Oh, gotcha. Had to do your regular job. No. But the reason I even pointed that out is because I did do that mod that I was talking about for the DuraClick EDCs. I did a little modification to that to where you shorten it a little bit, and then you don't have to worry about that little white piece. So I went over that, and kind of cool that I waited as long as I did, because I did it out of necessity rather than needing it to I guess needing it. I needed it, so I made it. Sometimes I just wanted to do whatever it was. Okay, so I've got this on this side, this on this side. Cha! And then I'm just going to hold it at like the very end here. And then I won't tighten this part all the way up yet. And then this will come back. This is another reason why the Harbor Freight lathe is not as advantageous, I would say. You don't have the width. Oh, you can't really see what I'm doing over here. Sorry. Whoop. All right, so all I did was put the live center in over there. It was higher, but then it got in the way. So let's see. If I drop that, go there. All right, let's try something right quick. See if we can get a better view. Okay. But I don't want it to get in the way. So there's that too. Sorry, hold on. So we want it like, I guess like that maybe? Just trying to just drop it lower a little bit. Oh, by the way. So you're saying you use the pine on light holders? Whew. No, thank you. That stuff lights like with a match. So if you just had a regular match and you had that, it would definitely light, because the sap is well, the sap and the wood combined is very flammable. So okay. All right. Well, you can't really see, but here we go. I just need to hold this side a little bit, just enough so it'll rotate it. So I'm gonna get that snug on there too. And then once this is configured, I won't need to repeatedly adjust anything. So once we're all set up here, I could just run the carriage, replace the blank, and then that stuff. Oh, the battery one. All right. Well, that makes more sense. Because that would have been not a good idea. But hey, you know what? You are your own person. You can do whatever you want. Let's see. Let me zoom out a little bit more on the top cam. Let's see if I can change that field of view a bit more. Yeah, here we go. That's better, right? Yeah, that's good. That's better. And that's what we're going for. Improvements. All right. Let's see. This one is called Dreamland. Very purple. So that's a Marauder. This is a Guardian. So before I get too carried away and sidetracked, we're going to get all these Guardians together and then all the Marauders together so I don't mix them up. Let's see. A little thing that you may or may not have known is you can just write on the bottom of them, and as long as you don't face that part off, you can still do pretty much everything you need to. But we're going to go ahead and trim it down. I'm just going to write it on it again anyways. But now you know. That is another way. You didn't think about it before. All right, let's see. Come on back, you. All right. All right, we want to keep a shallow cut. Shallow cut. Don't want it to be too tight. You can kind of see it vibrating there, not so much there, and not so much over here either, but in the middle. But it's not because we're tight. So that's what we're looking at and for. So let's take it for a drive. And I can already see that I'm going to have to do another pass. You can see that it's shiny right there. That's an indicator that it is still, at least the shiny spot is the same as the surface was. I just not that big a deal. Okay. Then we'll back her off and go again. Alright, so there we go, just so you can see. So this is all trimmed off, but this side is not all trimmed off. And it should be, completely circumferential, right? But this is where some people run into problems because they don't make sure that it's circumferential and they don't know the other solutions that can be done in order to get it back into round. But there is definitely a point where it will not be possible anymore. Because it'll get too thin and you can't fix it. So you'll have to modify again. That hiker's fun. I did also get a piece of cedar too, but I didn't make it. Pine is so soft. What a soft wood, man. Alright, so this is probably the point where it's a judgment call whether you want to go another pass or not. So you can see it's all turned there, just not this particular spot. But it is the rest of the way around. Now, what I'm looking at here is, will the jaws be on either side of this part? And if that is the case, then I'm not really worried about it messing up the round aspect of it. So, just a way to maybe save you an extra pass. And then as for this side, I'm also not worried about it because it's going to end up being flipped around and then turned into what I want it to be. This is going to be the section. Alright, this is going to be a Guardian, so this is going to be a G. So just so whatever shape you want it to be on there. And for me, my Guardian is the rounded profile, and then the Marauder is the flat-ended profile. So this is like a little dance that you gotta do. You get that snug. Lock her in. So this is actually turning quite true already. But there's still definitely going to be some surface imperfections that they're going to be resolved right now. So a nice shallow cut so it doesn't dig too hard. Abby's out of town. He's out west, actually. Again. A little jealous, but so right. Let's take a look here. Feels good, Mrs. Pot. Again, it goes back to that judgment call. You can see that shiny spot right there, can't you? Here. Let's emphasize it a bit more. So here's a shiny spot, and there's a shiny spot. And so what that tells me is that that was the lowest part of the blank. So she wants to be a cowboy. It's funny you say that. Her and I have joked back and forth about getting cowboy boots. Like, John, you don't wear cowboy boots. I said, not yet, but I might. Now, the other way these blanks are set up, maybe I should have mentioned that as well, is they're already one of each. One's going to be, I'm going to have two. So one's going to be a Guardian, one's going to be a Marauder. You know? So that's also the other way I am able to identify them. I just know one's going to be one and one's going to be the other. Yeah. Let's see how we spin it. See, I love blanks when they're on the right. When they right the first time, it's what a great thing, man. But for the sake of consistency and process refinement and stuff, It's probably just best to assume that you need to do it every time because of how minor those things can be. You can have a tenon that's just like tiny bit offset and it ruins the whole pin. At least in my view it does. Unfortunately, I've got some that are slightly offset, but not a goal. Oh, oh, Kid Rock. Oh, my bad. I missed the ref. Cut too shallow. Sean, did you take a look and see if you were able to use that Facebook link? If not, it's no big deal. I'm just wondering because it seemed a little weird before. Didn't know if it was going to work. I asked Kevin to take a look at it. Fancy lathe. I mean, it's just on a lead screw. But yeah. Yeet. How you doing? I don't think I've seen you here before. John. No more manual turning. Well, here's my manual turning back there. I just do this to get it flat and level, and I do the drilling over here as well. But then I do pretty much everything else over on the wood lathe, all the shaping and sanding and polishing and stuff. Hey, no worries, no worries. Appreciate it. Nice and flat. That's what we're looking for. So we got the G. Yeet! Are you a turner? These blanks were pretty hot items. A little bit. We did pretty well. All right, for you newcomers, you just getting here, thanks so much for being here. I just wanted to let you know what I'm doing right quick. So I'm trimming these down. So you can see over here that the blank is smooth, and then you can see right here where it's a bit shiny. So the shiny part is what we're trying to take away, which is the outer part of the blank. And from the beginning, when the blank was like full, like this, before we trimmed the outside off, it was, you know, shiny, glossy because of the surface of the mold that it was casted in. Now this, on the other hand, is the lowest point of this. So now you're caught up with what's going on. And I don't precisely measure this right now. I just need it to be all the same and uniform. Because when you start putting that into different types of jaws and stuff like that, you don't want it to be offset from any manufacturing. Unless you're doing it deliberately, in which case, go for it. That's another way to do it. This is why I got a little handy dandy. Oh, it was gone. It was gone before I actually needed it. There. Perfect. This is the last of the blade. And all of those sides are the sections. Dreamland. Got a center hole there. I'm just grabbing the hole of the other side. Hopefully it'll work fine. You see that it's a pretty shallow pass, but there's also, I don't know if you can actually see that. It's vibrating though. So, gotta clean that up. Now, I will say that some blanks that come out of like PVC, not really an issue at all with them. They go right into a collet cup as well. It's pretty convenient. At least some of them, as long as you got the right collet, I guess. But yeah, a couple blanks that I have purchased, one of which was the diamond cast, and they come in I don't think they come out of a silicone mold. Well, actually, I know that they don't come out of a silicone mold. But even if it did, there's a good chance that you can still do this step. But on the other hand, you could bypass this step altogether. But I think the success rate would drop a little bit. Because I mean, with it being just this little bit out of round, there are a few tricks that you can do to fix that, but you don't really want to kind of induce something like that if you can avoid it. If you were thinking about it, I would avoid doing it when it comes to pre-trimming blanks close to the diameter that you want them to be already. Any guesses as to why? At least in my experience of things, that's why I don't. Well, broken caps and the different components don't like being super thin, at least with the way that I drill. Now, there's probably an argument that you could make that would make it more reasonable if you kept the blank and drill bit cool the whole time. So if that were the case, then you wouldn't have to worry about the temperature aspect of it as much. Yeah. But because my drill bits typically do get hot, I just avoid cutting them to that diameter. Hopefully that will save you some time. With some frustrations. Okay, set that dialed in a bit more. Locker in place. Give her a spin, see what we're looking at. A little test touch. Clear that out. Okay. A little test touch there. Put it on a t-shirt. So I'm taking off a bit more than I should, and you'll see like on this end, it'll be nice, straight, and flat. But then towards the middle, it may do something a little weird if it was too tight. Hopefully it wasn't too tight. It kind of ramps just a little bit. So I'll have to come back and do another cleaning pass. There we go. Alright, just to illustrate that, I thought I was all ready for this. They're always in an obvious spot, yeah. Here we go. Alright, so just to illustrate this, so we're at 0, and then I'm going to lock it into place on this side, and then we're going to try to move it. So it fits over here, you can see, it fits over here, but it won't right here. So we have to change that and make it so it's not a steady ramp. The problem of it is negligible. but showing you the right way to do it. Cut slower? No. I mean, I could, and that might fix the problem, but I'm not going to do that. So I don't want it to take it longer. We got 2 speeds. Full throttle or not at all? Just kidding. Okay. Alright. But yeah, cutting slower would probably work as well. That's good. When I first got the metal lathe, the carriage was such a big deal. I didn't do metal work or anything like that. I still don't really. I'll make a brass mandible here and there, but that's about it. I prefer to actually just find someone that makes them out of stainless steel. But I don't cut that metal. And then the precise measurement of dialing it in just a little bit more. Let's see if we can illustrate this. So I'll stop it here for a sec. And you can see that the Sharpie is only sometimes touching. Okay. It tells me that those are the lower points, and then yeah. I have the machine to cut them. Yeah, you're right. I do. You're right. But I ain't in the mandrel making business. I'll make one out of resin if I needed one. That's what I use some of my cutoff pieces for and other things like that. To be my little testers and stuff. But threading metal with the actual taps that I use, I don't want to do that. I like them staying nice and sharp for my plastic. There's a spot right there where I need to do one more pass on. But yeah, doing triple lead on a manual lathe is not something that I've done. And still, I wouldn't say that I'm interested in doing it still. There are other things that I prefer to focus on. That's a machinist thing. I don't consider myself a machinist. And I guess, my definition of a machinist, I don't think of myself as that. A while back, Sean, we had talked about me getting you a lathe and then you just make my mandrels all the time. Because I do have some specific mandrels that would be pretty beneficial to have, but I'm not going to make them. And I haven't outsourced it quite yet. Looks like we got one more. Finally. Back that up. Just grabbing it a little bit at the front. This could also be the cause of why it's not or why it's not turning as clean, because this material, like, all right, so imagine the rotation, right? But it's only grabbing a little bit of it. So you have something and you're holding it just by the tip, but you're rotating it, right? I guess this way. You're rotating it. And then there's a little bit of a delay on the back end than there is on the front end because it's being introduced to resistance. So it's causing this potentially to torque a little bit, if that makes sense. So it's got such a little bite right there, and then it's causing it to twist a little bit. Resin's pretty forgiving, so it's not that big of a deal. But so is pretty much, let's see, I guess what material would that not work on? I mean, I suppose it could be like that on any metal if you're taking a big enough bite out of the material. Like if I was to go pretty far in and then trim it, there's a good possibility. One, it can offset the carriage a little bit potentially. And then two, it'll cause that resistance to the torque, the twisting, I suppose. If I buy the lathes and tools, don't tempt me. Don't tempt me with a good time now. Then I have to keep making mandrels. All the wants and needs. But really, we might have the opportunity, and similar to that. But see, it was kind of a loaded question at the same time. I should point that out too. It was a bit of a loaded question because I would sell them. I'd have you make them, and then I would just start selling them. And so you would be my golden goose. But I've got some specific designs that um, requires a little non-standard mandrels, so I have to make those. So like the M13, 14, 15, 12, 12, 13, 14, 15, I buy them. Right. Oh, nice. That one looks cool. We'll see what it looks like once we actually get it trimmed down to more the final diameter. But I'd say right now we're pretty good. We're going to pop this free. I'm going to go ahead and turn the vacuum off. And then from here, got this section. Well, let's see. Hey, Power, what's up? What's up, Power? Because we want these blanks to flow, like in a straight line, like the section's going to be up here, and so I'm going to pull that section, and that's going to go into the barrel. The barrel's going to be down here, so here's the barrel, and here's the cap, and the section's up here. I still have to measure these pieces out, but just kind of showing you what I'm doing. So the section, I'm gonna have to trim this so I can measure it, but actually I don't need to, but that's the best practice, I would suppose. Let's see. What you could potentially do is have it like this, where the section, and I do the section backwards. I build it backwards. Um, but yeah, I start there, and then I would actually part it off, which, I still could do. But the problem with that is you want the cap and the barrel to also line up, potentially, at least the sequence of coloring. It doesn't need to be perfectly lined up. It just is a possibility you could do. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm actually going to do it that way anyways. Not entirely, partially. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to leave enough out for me to have an entire section. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. And I need to go ahead and set my calipers to that. I also have a little template that I use back here that shows me it's a guide. So if you have a style that you make often, you should go ahead and have a template. This is from a different project, but it still is the same section and size and everything, so no reason it wouldn't work. So let's go ahead and measure that. And then because it's going to be easier to do it this way, I'm just going to go ahead and mark all of them because that's how I'm going to do them. We don't need to measure anything else right this second, but we could. Let's see. Good enough. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways that you can do it. The only reason I'm doing this reference line too is one because, well, I guess there's two reasons. One, so it tells me how big I need to make the piece, and it also makes it so I have to extend it just past the jaws so I can clean it off. So the intent is to clean it, face it, and then we're going to drill a 7mm hole and then do the other 9/32, and then the tenon, I'm going to make that, and then we're going to thread it, and then I'll part it off. And then because it's already here and grabbed, I'm going to go ahead and you can center punch it again or not. It's up to you. You can do it later. Let's see. Yeah, you just want to make sure that you're not going to drill too far if you're going to do it this way. Because that can happen. That can happen for sure. So this is my little tray. Yeah, I've got some drill bits here. And this is the threads for the Joe number 6, which is what the pins are all going to be fit for. And then there's other drill bits on here that are for different types of sections. So basically I've got a section tray that I use, and then I also have a barrel and cat tray. So take a nice shallow pass because you're going to tilt it potentially if you do too big of a cut. So if I was to cut it like way back here and then I'd push it forward, then it would cause the end to cant. You know what I mean? We don't want that. So I take a nice shallow. I'll do it again if I need to. It's better to do it like that, which I do need to. But you don't want it to tilt. All right, so now we are moving on to our Jacob's chuck. Now, if you haven't bought a Jacob's chuck and you want to make pins like this, I would recommend buying a keyless. It will save you a lot of time. Even though it might be a little more expensive, I think by like $10 maybe, but not having to use the key to crank it down will save you a huge amount of time. If it takes like 10 seconds every time you swap out a drill bit, or 5 seconds even, the amount of times you're going to swap out bits is not a few. We'll say it's probably closer to like 20 times per. So 20 times 5 is what? So 100 seconds. So that's a minute and a half for each pin, and then you have 8 pins times a minute and a half. That's 8, and then plus another 2, 10 minutes. And that's just of you moving the key around to make sure it's tight on the drill bit. I digress. That was extreme, but I wanted to convey that message. to you because you deserve it. All right. So we got a let's see, we got a 7mm drill bit here. Yes, indeed. Now we want to. I'll stop this for a second. So we're looking at it right here. I'm going to go to this mark. Whoop. Sorry, you can't really see it, can you? There we go. So some of my drill bits have marks, and some of them I just go all the way through. It really depends on what it is that I'm doing. But this, it's marked like that because I'm just wanting to go right here, and then I want to stop because that's where I'm going to cut it. And I know that it's long enough to be the section that I want it to be. And that is one way to do it. You could center drill. However, I find that these brad point bits will find center as long as it's a nice flat surface to begin with. Also, the little nipple that was at the very end of the section, if you break that off, you can actually create a little dent in there where that was. But that also tells me that my elevation on my tool rest, or my tool here, is not perfect. But it's not that big of a deal, because it's not that type of perfection that I need. Let me make sure I got it tight enough before I get too far here. Don't need to have it too tight, but just tight enough. Okay, from there, I'm going to go ahead and push it. So because the quill takes forever to go back and forth, I'm just going to push it. Just make sure it's nice and flat, and you have a little extra room should you catch the edge of that. If you use a pointy bit, I think they're brad bits. I don't suggest doing this because they have a sharp flare, and they don't really taper in nicely the way it would be beneficial in this particular case. So that is the internal diameter for the section, and then I opened it up a little bit more for the converter to be fit inside, because there is a little bit of a taper on the converter that you have to factor in when you're making it, because you can't have it too big, but you can't have it too small. If it's too small, then the converter won't marry up to the nib housing, and if it's too big, then these particular threads won't work well, and you'll need to revisit that particular stage of things. So, so I know that my another little cool trick that you can do is I use this as my reference because I know the size that I want it to be, and I use this as my like standard to deviate from, so that way I can make them about the same every time. And I'll do this manually. It's actually easier to use a carbide for this, like a carbide on a wood lathe, for example. That way you could just pretty much go straight in quite easily. But pushing in with this is not very good. So what we're doing, obviously, is trimming it back. But because of the angle of this particular tool, I've been kind of frustrated with this particular cutting edge. You can see that it's slightly tilted this way. So I can only really use the tip. Now I could swap it out. I know I could do that. Like, I've got a few other ones. It's just I didn't want to swap this one out because I have a few other things I'm going to do with this particular one. So just thinking about the yeah, just thinking about the measurements and stuff like that. So you don't want to mess that part up. Now, if I was doing this on my wood lathe, I'd have my caliper set for the diameter that I wanted it to be, or I would just measure it periodically to make sure that I was getting close to where I wanted to be. Now, 975. Okay, good range for this. So, heck yes, it's right where we want to be. Okay, gonna move this back and out of the way. This needs to get swapped. Let's see. I know another thing that people like to do is they like to lube up the threads and stuff. And by all means, go for it. You can do that. I haven't found that I needed to like that. The other thing that you could do is actually polish the tenon now, if the tenon was large enough and you factored in a little bit of sanding away for the tenon. But you'll run into the potential problem of you didn't sand and polish far enough, and then you use your metal calipers on it. It didn't work right, or whatever reason. There's a myriad of reasons, but basically there's a variety of ways to do it, and my intent is just to show you a few different ways that I have found, and you know, get you to a point where you can make them yourself if you want to, or if you just like enjoying the process of watching it happen. That's also cool with me. Let's see. All right, so here I usually use on the wood lathe when I used to do that. I would just go ahead and hit it with a carbide. But because, let's see, it's this way. Yeah, I'll just go ahead and do a little bevel. Just a little bit of a beveling action right there. Perfect. Now the other thing at this point, you can determine whether you're going to do a relief on the section or you're going to do a relief on the barrel. So for this one in particular, because I've already got it set up, I'll go ahead and show you. This is also how I know that it's slightly off, because this ever so slightly is pointed a little bit that way. You can't really tell, but the parting tool is slightly pointed that way because my turret is slightly rotated. So what we're going to do is we're going to mitigate it. Hopefully before it gets too hot. Boom. That's it. So that is a way, right? So that's good. The threads are looking nice. Yeah, so the next thing we're going to do is I'm just going to part this off. Now I have the parting on. We'll go ahead and use that. Yeah, we'll go ahead and use that. So because it is at an angle, I'm going to start a little bit ahead. I'm going to start a little bit forward towards the jaws, and then as I start going in, I'm going to come back just a tiny bit to make it straight. So in, make contact, and at the little purchase point, and then back it to straight. That way you can go straight in. Boom. Alrighty. So now we've got the section. Pretty nice. It looks really cool. Sorry, can't yeah. what doesn't need to be done on the inside? Did I say something? I don't remember if it had to do with that. So for this, I'm just going to put this to the side because I still have to come back to it. Because we have to finish that part. So we can put this back on. And then we're going to come back over here. So like I said, the cap, this is going to end up being the cap and then the barrel. So we got the cap and then the barrel. So this measurement here is for my cap. And this is going to be a Marauder, so there's a decent amount of room for error because they're going to be flat-ended profile. No need to be done on the inside, the relief. Oh yeah, but that's why I said you could do it either way. You can do it either way, but I do a combination of both actually because I like it subtle. But yeah. So this is the cap and then the barrel. So the next thing that I'll do sometimes, or that can be done, I guess, I'll just go right here, make sure that we have enough for a tenon. You can kind of see that we're going to go right into the body here. But you want to check and make sure, I guess, if you, the barrel, you can see, sorry, now you can see that we are sufficient with the barrel as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to part the cap off, and then we'll go right into making the barrel. And for the sake of consistency, you'll see this way. See me do it this way. Okay, so I know it's a flat one. I'd rather have a little bit more on the barrel than I have on the cap. I just favored my template a little bit that way, and yeah, that's good enough. Yeah, here we go. This doesn't have to be perfect because I'm just going straight across. So this part is still perfectly flat. So once I flip it around and then I drill, it won't be an issue at all. This is a little bit of a nuanced thing. I'll show you right quick. So I don't necessarily use the parting tool all the time. If you've been around my channel for a little while, you will notice, you'll know that. But you can see that the actual cutter is about 1.85 or so. And then this here is 0.69. So it is a little over a full millimeter narrower. And typically what I will do is I'll take this saw, turn the lathe on, and then I'll just kind of hold the saw right where I want the cut line to be, and then just cut it that way. Let the lathe do the work, and then you part it just like that. And if you're trying to minimize and or maximize the amount of, if you're trying to maximize the material, that is one way to do that. So I got a message from from Abby, who's out west. All right, let's see. Now from here, I don't like to use the parting tool. Really, the parting tool, I only go straight with that, and it's because it's a little flexible too. So I don't want to have to deal with that. But here, all we're going to do is clean up the face, of the barrel here. And then you've got the chuck. And there's a couple ways you could do this, but the way that I like is probably the simplest way to go about doing it. So I know that the diameter of the section, I know the size of the section tenon that I need it to be. So this is that drill bit. So I basically drill all the way in, and this creates the space for the converter, as well as it creates the space for the threads when you're tapping it. Okay. So we'll just slowly make contact. You'll see it kind of maybe dip down, and then it'll level out. So we're just waiting for it to level out, and then I will back it off. And then what we're going to do from here, make sure there's plenty of space, and then we're just going to carefully ramrod this in. Yeah, I like the relief on the inside as well. However, I do think that there's use cases for both. And that's another one of those things, you know, that just make it a little bit more yours by doing it that way. Oh, I'm getting carried away here. What am I doing? All right, here's the relief on the inside. Whoop. It is a precise measurement where I go in a little bit. See? A little bit. It's the precise measurement. Then you don't even have to turn it off. You just slow it down. And then just slowly introduce. Let her fly. Then back her off. Boom. Okay. Next thing I use is a little tool here where this will create a nice little bevel, like a little ramp for the section threads to be able to work their way inside of the threads. So you just do a little touch there. You don't do anything crazy. If you do go too hard, you're going to cause it to start jumping around, and that's bad. You'll just have to cut it back and start it again. Okay, so that is good. That's good. I don't know what palm is. Just aesthetic. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it is aesthetics, and it's also another thing. There is a functional reason that could also be done. But that's not for today. This is the way that I cut my tenons here. So this is just a guide. And the guide can also be used on a wood lathe, so that's pretty cool. And then I just peel it back. Again, I know the size based off of the cutter here. But yeah, I'm not sure what palm is, man. or friend. Pippo. Pippo. That's a fun name. Okay. So, what we need to do is measure to make sure that we are where we want to be, and if not, what we need to do to get there. And in this case, I need to turn it down a bit more. This is probably one of the harder things for people in general. And understandably so. It's a very small tolerance. Alright, we'll check the measurement again here. Okay, I'm going to need to go to the smaller portion of that. At least that's what it's looking like. But yeah, maybe it is. I'm not sure. You'll have to let me know what that is, Pippo. Okay, so just a little bit more. So we're about 1295. So 1295 to 1275 is typically my target, because of the size drill bit that I use in my for my cat. Let's see, this is sufficient. We'll just roll with that. Okay, so I'll show you this part here, and then I've got to get my daughter right quick, but I'm going to leave the stream running because it should not be very long. So that is my plan. Something that you're going to want if you do it this way is what I call an internal support structure. I just need to find the thing. Basically, it's just another section that I use. It's another section that I use that gives it an internal structure that I can use the tap over top of, or the die on top of, I mean. You could also do it the opposite way, because I also have collars that I've made to try and reduce the problem of that. I even made it yellow, so I would be able to find it, but it doesn't want to be found right now. There it is. It would have just been annoying having to make another one right quick. Alright, so this is what I was talking about. All it's going to do is give it more rigidity on the inside, so the threads will, I think, in my opinion, I think it'll make them go better. So just make contact, keep everything loose, make sure that it's clear and it won't actually hit anything. Boom. If you have the diameter right, you won't have to worry about bad things happening as far as cracking and stuff like that. Now, at this point, you don't need to determine if you want a little relief on this or not, because we're going to mount it on its mandrel, and then we can do that at that point if we still would like to. So we're going to pop that out. And lastly, we have a section to do, or I mean a cap to do. But that will be pretty fast. And then we've got the other side, which hindsight, I could have just left it in and then done this part. Yeah, you just leave it in there because that's what's going to happen to it anyways, for one. And two, I can measure it and trim it. So, a couple ways to do this. One, if you choose to do it this way, be aware that you can snap it because it's pretty thin. So, where the tenons are, they're thin. So, if you think you can do this without breaking it, go for it. But just be ready because it can absolutely break. I think I've said all I needed to. Because you're going to put torque on this. The best way to do it would be to not do it this way. But instead, take that last little bit off and then hold it by the actual section itself. So you can see we're turning nice and true. I don't know if you're ready for this, but this is even another way to do it. So because this back end here, you can't really see it, I guess, but this back end here, right here, is higher than this here. So it's taller. So if I was to take this and put it inside the jaws, it's going to offset because it's going to settle in one spot over there and it's going to settle in a different spot over there because it's different. So a way to go around this, well, other than what I said, here's another way. So you just take this and then you a little back and forth just in that spot. All you want is that spot to be lower than everything else, and now you're good to go again. So now that won't interfere with anything. Does that make sense? Okay, that's a way. And then you would be able to take the barrel out, and then you would be able to thread the, or drill and thread the section. Okay. Now, alternatively, you can just leave it like that. And not doing a little recess will increase your success rate on this. That little relief point on the section that we did will reduce slightly your success rate on this, potentially, I would say. Just making it thinner. Because this is primarily resin and liquid pigment, I'm not really worried about it. But if it was like a sparkle or had glitter and stuff in it, then I would probably not do it because its bond is not as strong. So the first thing is this, so hopefully we won't break it. You can see that it's going all right here. So we'll do this until we get down to there. You just don't want to push on it too hard because you absolutely will snap it. Okay, and then for a nice little cleaning pass, once you get it to where it's, you can eyeball it and it all looks about right. We'll just do a little contact and then finish the rest of it. Let's see how we're looking. Almost there. And now we're at the correct length as well. So now I just need to drill into the appropriate depth. So I do a little of that action, pop that out. Whoop! And then the other thing I like to do, I like to take it one step further. I will go just a tiny little bit in to make sure that the recess for the little flare out of the section is about flush with the rest of the stuff. Boom. Okay. Let's see. So from there, we just need to go ahead and thread it. Sit. All right. Again, this is torque, so you do so at your own risk. Just know that this is probably a likely point where you would break it. If the blank doesn't want to cooperate, or if your hands are a little more gorilla-like than others. Some people got some pretty meaty paws, but at this point, I'm just going to thread it in. This is a Jowo number 6 nib thread tap. So we'll just ride her in there and then reverse. But why isn't it unscrewing? Well, because of all the other stuff, we tightened up the thread so much. Well, I guess not. Not very much. Boom. All right, one more thing before I step away for a minute. So the section itself, let me grab not the nib, sorry, not the section. This is the section. So I'm gonna go ahead. Let me go ahead and blow through it. Stay. Sit. Okay. The other thing I will say about this is that this part right here, don't worry about like refining the end too much right now. Just make sure it is the appropriate depth. Okay, so look at that. See? Boom. Now, the other thing is if you use a triple lead on your sections, or anything more than a single lead, it's not going to thread at the same spot every time. If you know what I'm saying. So a triple lead will start in 3 different positions: a quad lead, quintuple lead, 4 and 5, and so on. Now, the section is a single, but the cap to barrel is a triple. It just reduces the amount of rotations to open it. Oh, put that back in. Turn it pretty good. So, boom. And then you can see that we're flush. Yeah, that's what we like. I don't like it when it sticks out. And it is harder, I would say, to do that, or or easier to leave it sticking out. I don't know, whichever way you want to look at it. But aesthetically, Sean, aesthetically, I like that it is flush. But again, that's a point to differentiate yourself, I suppose. All right, so the orientation, we can tell that it's this way because I took care of that at the very beginning. I'm going to go in, And the way that I do this particular part is by having it about 2 times the length that I want to be able to tap it in. If I have it too close to the inside here, because you're putting a tap inside and then the jaws are right there, it's going to kind of grab each individual dip down potentially if the jaws are too tight. So just a food for thought there, I suppose. I'm going to go ahead and clean the surface here. Nice. And we are working on the cap now. So that is nice and set. Now I'm going to grab my 2 drill bits that I'm going to use for this. Whoop, whoop, there we go. Okay. Whether you start with a large one or a small one, I don't know if it actually matters. But in my mind, I'm going to start with the large one, and I'm going to drill all the way there. And then for my smaller drill bit, it only has a little bit further to go, but that'll give it time for this outer part to cool down a little bit. So if I was working much faster, that would become more relevant. So right now it's not that relevant because I'm taking a lot of time to talk about it and talk through it and everything. But yeah, again, I'll make slow contact. It'll center itself, and we're not wobbling or anything. So I'll try to accomplish this in a few goes. For this particularly, I do lock it in every time, but I'm not hesitant to put it in while it's spinning. So I'll make contact, seat it, lock it, and then start advancing. And then have my hand on the tailstock just to release it, pull it out, because you don't want to have to spend all that time unwinding it while it's in there, because it's heating it up, and that's not what you want. You don't want it to be heated up. All right, here we go. Boom, contact. And as far as we're going, I leave a little bit of room on this, a precise measurement of a little bit between the little the drill stop, so the swarf can come through. And that was just something that I had found out the harder way, because it caused it to flare out because it built up enough of the noodles and stuff. So not as cool. This is large enough for the nib here. So these little wings here on the sides, they will rotate inside of this without touching. So design-wise, that's what you're looking for and looking at. So if you didn't know, now you do. So we only have to drill that far, and this is giving the outer some time to cool off. Then you can usually do this in one go, and again, I leave myself a little space. But yeah, once you're setting up your tools to do this on repeat, that's just one of those things that will definitely help out. And then again, this is how I create the recesses as well. You can see that it is sloped, so it's actually acting as a twofer for me, where it creates a little bit of the recess, and it also makes it so the barrel and cap and the section and the barrel both all go together with a slight little ramp. So pretty cool, if I do say so myself. So we're just going to get it pretty close before doing it like that. Boom. So at that point, you can either use a little bit of sandpaper, or you can use a little chamfer tool here, and I just make contact pretty much. I just make contact with it so it rounds off that little bit right there. The other reason I set it up, well, I'll show you that later, never mind. So now I am looking for my triple lead, which is here. This is a M13 triple lead tap. It is by Tapco. I think that's pretty much the only way to do that. It was a recent group buy, by the way, of Tapco. So if you don't have the taps and dies, you can't do it this year now. But if you want to put together a group buy to get taps and dies, that is a thing that can be done. However, I will say places like Beaufort and Turner's Warehouse both also carry the triple leads. Yep. So you can see that there's not very much material right here. Let's see, the thickness of it right now, of the lip, that is, or the not the lip, the wall thickness. My goodness. All right, so that's wall thickness is about 3.8. So that means that we can go about another 2 millimeters down. And if you prepared that for the 2 millimeters in the first place, like what I was talking about with pre-sizing it like this, you're going to go to do it and it's going to flare out a bit. And if you've seen pins that were made that way, you can see that sometimes it's like a straight right there, and then at the base of the cap it kind of flares out. But you know, not to be confused with somebody that did it on purpose. So there's that possibility as well. Okay, so you make contact, and I've got depth lines right there that I go to. And that's it for that. So at this point, the next thing to do is to test fit. Oh, look at that, so close. Now there is a way to make it line back up, but I guess that'll be for another time, actually. I don't feel like doing that. It'll take a while. But yeah, pretty good. Let's see. Yeah, that'll remedy itself. So what I was talking about before was the, so we're very close, and you can see that there's a little bit more to go. There's a little gap right there. So that was caused by this little bit there. It's not going all the way back. And again, that was done intentionally because this is offset, for one. And two, I can go back when I put it onto the mandrel on the wood lathe and refine that particular thing. So it just fits right into there. It'll be done that way. But yeah. Just, I think one of the big things about it is just kind of knowing what is the fix to the different steps. And you know, that just comes with experience in doing it over and over again. But yeah. So this is there. That's done. That's done. So the last thing I really need to do here is do a little center punch for turning on the wood lathe, because I'd turn with a live center on it as well. Not too fast. Center start. That's it. That's all I needed. Didn't need to be fast or anything like that. And then this has already got a pretty substantial hole there, but we can check it to see what it looks like. Also on this one, sorry, should have mentioned before, but on the cap, I make it so it doesn't go all the way down. That's on purpose. Thinking about the section size as well as the nib housing and everything. So here's the mandrel, right? Here's the mandrel, and then here's the drill bit that this mandrel's for, or that I use for this mandrel. And I drilled to there, right? So the shoulder of the inside of the cap is going to be right here, and then I matched it up to that, and then you can see that there's a little bit more space. So my deliberate offsets for the cap drilling is for that reason as well. Yeah, when you're designing a pin, you can't just think about it from the outside and what it looks like. You got to think about it from the inside, because you're trying to construct it. And so in a way, you got to think about it backwards in some areas, so you can make it the way that you want it to be. Let's see. One more thing I'll say about the triple lead actually is for the cap, there's 3 different positions. So it's possible that it's not perfectly circumferential in every single position. But it should be pretty darn close if you did everything right. Sometimes you'll see caps that are like small on one side next to the body, and then you'll see them different on another one, and it's just a different position. So let's see what I'm talking about. So this pin, for example, there isn't actually a shorter side, but what I'm talking about is you go from the barrel, and then you come up, and then you can feel where it is. Now, for triple lead, there might be a larger overhang on one of the sides, and that just means that it was done a little offset, which is not what I go for personally. Let's see. I think I've got an offset one somewhere. I'd have to go look for it. I'm not going to do that right now, but they can be offset, and that's potentially one of the reasons why. I spent a long time figuring out all these different things, and I've made some mistakes many times, and it just kept happening. But anyway, I think that was actually a pretty good stream. I'm actually going to call it right there. So I do appreciate you hanging out. I definitely poured a lot into this one. So don't be surprised if I take it down so I can use the content and make a video out of it, because yeah, I took my time on it. Had a pretty good flow for the most part. But anyway, I appreciate you hanging out with me today. It was a pleasure meeting the new faces here. Saw a lot of engagement. If you would, on your way out, hit that like button. It would be good for me. I make pin content, fountain pen making content, and then other little projects, primarily done on a wood lathe. So, yeah. Do me a solid and hit that for me. That'd be great. But yeah, thanks for hanging, and I will see you the next time. Have a good day.